every morning, and we're on these platforms so that we can spread the good news. And the good news is that you can live the kind of life that you want with ease. Okay, this is not, you know, the kind of thing where everything drops out of the sky for you. It's not like that. But we all have our jobs, we all have our interests, we all have things that we're working on, and some of us are struggling. Some of us are struggling to thrive, and this actually helps that process. It helps you see things that you normally don't see. It helps you navigate certain things that you have difficulty navigating, and it's going to make your life easier. So, we're going to talk about it today on the live. So, anyway, neuroplasticity, what is it? Neuroscience. Whoa, what is it? It's brain. It's the study of the brain, okay? Neuroplasticity is when circuits, when neurons fire together, they wire together. Okay, so anything that you practice, we know now in our modern day findings, we know that when you start to do a new activity, when you learn art, when you learn, say, a piano, how to play the piano, how to play the guitar, how to draw, these things, these creative things, you fire new neurons. Okay, these form new neural pathways. When this happens, you start memorizing this activity. It goes into your subconscious. Okay, but you also create new neural pathways. Why is this important? Well, this is important because then you can learn new things. Okay, or you can bring back old stuff. So today we're going to talk about creativity. Good morning, Jay. Good morning, guys. Good morning, Sam. Good morning, Camilo. So we're going to talk about it because it's important. Okay. So how do you develop new neural pathways, and why is this important for creativity? It's important for creativity because when you start to grow up, let's say grow up, okay, is the key word. When you're a teenager, you're taught that this creative world that you grew up in when you were a kid is immature, right? It's like, well, pretty soon you're going to be in high school. You need to grow up, right? So, right around intermediate school, people condition you into leaving it behind, or they fear you into leaving it behind. Okay, so why does this happen? Well, because there's several stages in life, right? And when you go through the stages in life, you get to that stage and you want to be cool. You want to be accepted. Okay, you don't want to be talking about fairy tales, and you don't want to be using a creative imagination. So in some people it shuts down. Now in other people it shuts down for other reasons. Some people, I have a client that was married to a narcissist for 17 years. That's a big deal, you know. And so when you undergo trauma, extreme stress, or just maybe regular stress on a long-term basis, like at a job that, I coach a lot of executives. That's what I do. I do executive coaching. And in executive coaching, a lot of professionals have a lot of responsibility. Okay, they have jobs where they supervise other people. They do strenuous activities, a lot of stress. And in that kind of stress, it starts to limit your creativity. Okay, so trauma, stress, any kind of pressure that you have will limit creativity. Now, if you're a creative person, no problem, because you're probably using that creativity anyway. If you don't normally use that creativity, or let's say it another way, if your job doesn't require it and you leave it out, you just leave it out for whatever reason, okay, what happens is it starts to become dormant. Okay, so when these behaviors stop, the brain prunes these activities. Okay, it goes, oh, okay, we're not being creative. Okay, and slowly it will just close it off. So, I thought everybody was creative, right? So in my business, I have to use creativity. So I do it all the time. But I thought everybody was like that. And then I learned, no, the brain actually, when you don't use it, you lose it. So the brain starts to curtail that activity. It starts to close it off, okay, when it's not used. So how do you get it back? Well, we're going to talk about getting it back. Okay. So what are the causes again? Well, criticism, shame. When people shame you into things, okay, they criticize you. Okay. What happens when people criticize you? You start thinking about it. What does that turn into? Negative self talk. What does that do? All kinds of damage. Okay. One of them is it shuts down your creativity. Okay. So also comparison, when you're comparing, so when I have my clients, right, I always tell my clients, I don't compare you to anybody. I compare you to you first session. And then we make progress. And then I point back to first session and I go, you see, you were like this first session. You see how much you've improved? Because it's important to show positives. I don't use negatives when I teach, not at all. I never tell somebody, okay, not like that, do it like this, or don't do that, do this. Like I never say that, ever. Because you create new walls and people build new walls because now they're going, well, Junior said I did this wrong, that wasn't right, and now it gets worse. In my business, what I try to do is knock down walls, knock down emotional obstacles that people have built over time. It's been built in them. You're not really aware of how much you've been conditioned until you get pulled out. And this is what we do with the vocalization process. Okay. So the other thing that, when schools reward conformity, that's another thing. Schools reward conformity. Hi, Sarah. You're going to like today's session. You're going to like this, Sarah. We're talking about something important. So we're talking about creativity and how to get it back, how to imagine, how to get that those creative juices flowing, as it were. Okay, so school systems that reward conformity. What does that mean? Well, school systems, right? They condition you. They take you from here and they go like this. Okay? Your emotions and your actions and you're like this and they say no, 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 you have to be like this. This is what you have to do. Okay? Conformity, when you conform. Good morning, Bill. Thank you. Thank you for liking the live. Like the live, you guys. Thank you so much. Uh, so trauma and conditioning, right, shut the door to creativity. Now, the reason why we're telling you this is so that you can manifest things easily. Okay, if you have a good imagination, you can manifest stuff very easily. I do it easily. Okay, and you have to, yeah, you have to. Oh, okay, you're driving, drive safe. So, so you can manifest easily if you have a good imagination. Why? Because you have to imagine where it is you want to end up. Okay, what's the final destination look like? Okay, you want money? Okay, how much money? And for what purpose? What are you going to do with the money? Okay, so you have to know your what and your why. Okay, what do I want? Okay, maybe $1,000. Why do you want it? Well, so I can pay off my bills and whatever, buy my son a bicycle or whatever it is. Okay, so another thing is being realistic. Okay, you know how people say be realistic. Oh, come on, that's not realistic. Well, be realistic. What they're really doing is they're forcing you to be like this. Okay, that's intimidating. They go like that. Why? Because they're shaming you. They're making you feel guilty. Okay, so fear, guilt, shame, it's all related to fear. Okay, and they're making you feel guilty so that you conform. They're making you feel guilty so you go like this. So you start to limit your thinking. Okay, limited thinking is lack. If you're in lack, forget abundance. It's not for you. Okay, unless you want to improve it. Okay, but if you're a big picture thinker, okay, that's like this, okay, big picture thinker, you manifest easily. Why? Well, first of all, you want to imagine big, okay, because even let's say you imagine this much, and let's say in reality, when it turns out, because it happened to me so many times, you only get this much. Sometimes I used to write affirmations for money. I don't hardly do that anymore. But I used to write for $5,000, and sometimes I would get 3,000. So this is 5,000. Sometimes I would get 3,000. You think I was disappointed? I was ecstatic. Okay? And it went something like this. I am so happy and grateful now that I have $3,000. Thank you. And sometimes it came in a contract. Sometimes it came in students. Sometimes it came in clients. So, you know, the how is God's job. Okay? So so now when you're realistic, that does this to your mind. Okay? When you conform, that does this to your mind. So a lot of people can't imagine themselves wealthy. A lot of people can't imagine themselves with a new car or driving a new car. So part of the visualization process. So I teach affirmations, meditation, vocalization, visualization. If you aim all of these four things at one thing, it cannot not happen. It has to happen based on your perception and your subconscious that actually makes it a reality. Your subconscious looks for avenues to make it happen. This is how human beings work. And the superconscious, so there's three states of awareness in you: conscious, subconscious, and superconscious. The superconscious is God, consciousness, universe, whatever you want to call that. But the way that works is it works off what's in your subconscious. So yesterday I was saying, if you pray, but you have a limited subconscious or limited thinking, beliefs, limited beliefs in your subconscious, the superconscious is only going to work off of what's in your subconscious. You can pray, 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 reach out to God, reach out to God. God is actually in here, okay? So praying in itself is division, okay? Because praying is suggesting that God is somewhere out there. I actually had this religious lady tell me one day, she said, oh no, Jesus is coming back in the clouds for us. He's going to come back and save us. Okay, nobody's going to save you. Okay, but you are fully equipped to do what Jesus told you to do and go into the kingdom and save yourself in here and seek your resurrection in here. Okay, seek your salvation in here. But you have a conscious, subconscious, and superconscious. The superconscious works off of what's in your subconscious. So that's why the affirmations, meditation, vocalization, visualization, and then you put the beliefs in your subconscious. The process is ask, believe, receive. It's not magic, it's your subconscious. The superconscious looks at what's in your subconscious, figuratively, okay? It knows what's in your subconscious. What does it do? It opens doors as you take the steps. It opens the doors. It brings the right people, right? I always use the XYZ company scenario. Okay, example. So you want to work at XYZ company, you write the affirmation. I am so happy and grateful now that I work at XYZ company. Thank you. And maybe you do it for 2 weeks. 2 weeks is enough for the subconscious to start working. But you need to do it for 66 days for it to become a firm belief. Okay, now after a couple of weeks, what happens? You're at the gym, you meet this guy, you guys are talking, and you go, where do you work at? And he goes, XYZ company. And you go, oh, I was just thinking of working over there. He goes, yeah, I work in human resources. We have openings. Come over and fill out a form. And in a couple of weeks, you're working for XYZ company, and you go, what a coincidence. I met a guy at the gym, yada, 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 yada. Coincidence? Most people go, oh yeah, that's a coincidence. All right, so here's the thing, right? I know so many people that go to church. I know so many people that praise God and worship Jesus and read their scriptures. They memorize their scriptures. They can give me memorized scriptures, right? But certain things are from God in their minds, and certain things are coincidences. So I'm here to tell you, if you believe in God, okay, and we talked about this last week, man-made and God-made. This is God-made. Everything out here, besides nature, is man-made. It's made for somebody else's in here. Okay, why is that important? So that you can see clearly. Okay, people look, but they cannot see. They listen, but they cannot hear. And that's because they're not seeking in here first. Okay, seek first the kingdom, and everything will be added unto you. That's what it means. It means when you go looking out here because your eyes look away from the kingdom, you go looking out here for stuff, you don't find it. You go out here looking for stuff, you find man-made stuff. That's deceiving because it's an illusion. That's what Gautama Buddha talked about. Okay? He said the man that sees life as an illusion escapes suffering. What's the illusion? The cars, the buildings. Okay? What else? Oh, the inventions. Okay? All of it. Man made those things. That's the illusion. Now, putting your faith and trust in illusions creates suffering. Right? It creates mental suffering. And that's what Gautama Buddha was talking about. Jesus said the same thing in a different way. Okay? But when you start shrinking your understanding, when you start shrinking or narrowing, okay, your mindset, and now, because education does this to you, education does this, because you go to school for a certain thing. So it will make you focus on that thing, and then, okay, this is nurse, this is doctor, this is attorney, this is whatever, right? Electrician, plumber, whatever, janitor. Or maybe you don't go to college for a janitor. But anyway, you get it, right? But that's what education does. Don't confuse education with intelligence. But your nervous system learns creativity, okay? It learns expression, it learns imagination. But when it gets dismissed as danger, as rejection, as childish, like, oh, there's your wild imagination, right? So when I was a kid, right, I got told that, oh, you have a vivid imagination. You have your imagination is getting carried away with you. Oh, really? Guess what? When I look online right now, like, I just search my name once in a while to see if anybody's written anything or whatever. And I see all of the things that I was imagining when I was 12. Everything came out. It didn't come out the way I wanted to, but it came out. And this is why the how is God's job, okay? All right, so imagination is a function, not a talent. Okay, imagination is not a talent that you're born with. It's a function. Everybody can do it. Okay, but people get intimidated like this, okay? Like this. This is narrow-mindedness. This is focus on one thing. This is, okay, we're going to take this and we're going to focus it like this. And now you're the nurse. Now you're the doctor. Now you're the whatever, electrician, okay? Like that. And what happens is, in that process of focus, they leave out creativity. Not always. It depends on what it is. It also depends on the person and your environment. What kind of environment were you in? When you were 12, 13 years old, did people do this to you? Did they tell you that did they shame you into it and go, oh, you can't do that. That's crazy. That's crazy thinking, right? Those ideas are crazy. I'm here to tell you to trust your crazy ideas, because that's all I do. That's all I do. I follow my dreams. I follow my heart. I follow my crazy ideas. And somehow they all turn out, okay? I drive the kind of car I want. I wear the kind of clothes I want. I do whatever I want. That's basically the rule since I was 17. Do what I want. So because imagination is a function and not a talent, anybody can do it. But it's important for manifestation. Because if you want to bring things into your life, if you want to bring better into your life, okay, better relationship, or if you want to make your relationship better, not necessarily you want to get rid of it and get another one and get a better one, but if you want to improve your relationship, imagination is very important. Okay, imagination is a forecast. Okay, imagination is like, I'm going to picture what I want to become. I want to picture what I want to have. I'm going to picture the ideal situation for my business. I want to picture what the final product will look like. So, this is why imagination is important. Okay? So, what do people call no imagination? When you have no imagination, what do they call it? When you have no imagination, well, what is it a result of? It's an overactive inner critic. When you're critical, okay, inside. When you're critical of others, you're critical of yourself through your subconscious. Why? Because your subconscious, after you've been critical about other people for a little while, repetition, right? It starts, your subconscious learns that. When your subconscious learns that, now you become critical all the time. You ever meet those people? They're very critical, like all the time. Critical, criticize, criticize, criticize. And what happens to them? Ooh, they start criticizing themselves. How do you know this? They have low self-esteem, no confidence. Okay? They're always questioning themselves. Those are the people that, say, oh, well, how do I look? Is this okay? Is that okay? Is this okay? Is that okay? Why? Because when they look at other people, it's not okay. Okay? So it's the opposite. If you have good observation skills, people cannot hide from you. I used to work in very toxic environments, and none of them could hide from me. So I would just play the game. You have to play the game. You have to play the game for certain things at certain times. If you know the game. If you don't know the game, you need to learn the game. What else inhibits creativity? The fear of being wrong. Are you afraid of being wrong? Okay, I have a client that I'm almost over that part with him. He had the fear of being wrong. He also had the fear of not having the answer in a meeting. He also had the fear of not knowing things and therefore not having the answer. He's a brilliant guy. He's a really, really smart guy. Thank you for the light bulb moment. I am very critical of myself. Yeah, don't be critical of yourself. Your subconscious will learn that. So, fear of being wrong, right? Okay? It's okay to be wrong. It's okay to ask somebody how. It's okay to say, no, I haven't heard of that. What about that? That's how I learn. And we did that the other day. We were talking about coming from I do not know. That's important. Why? Because you open the doors to learning. When you come from I do not know, I played a dummy on the radio. It was a comedy thing, but I played a dummy for years and years and years. 15 years. And over the course of those years, after about the second year, everybody I worked with started treating me like a dummy, like I was a dummy, right? And I was like, whoa, it's working, right? So I would fall into that role. I would just play the role, so we would be on the radio and we would be talking and making jokes on the radio, right? And I would be acting stupid on the radio for comedy. And then we would go off the radio and people would say stuff, and because I knew that they were looking at me like a dummy, I would go, oh, really? No, what is that? I haven't heard of that. Well, what about it? And they would tell me everything, right? And I would learn a lot. And then one day, the smartest guy I worked with told me, it takes a really smart guy to play a dummy. And then I was like, oh, okay, he knows. He knows what I've been up to. One guy out of a whole radio station full of people. One guy knew. Okay, now, what else? What else curtails creativity? Okay, lack of sensory awareness. The world around you. Okay? Tuning in to your environment. What do people always say? Be aware of your surroundings. Okay, what does that mean? Start listening, start feeling, okay? Start smelling, start, right, getting into your environment. Be aware. Why are we not aware? Too many distractions. Okay? So this is one. Okay? Now this is not a bad thing, okay? This is a really good thing if you use it right. I make a lot of money with these. Okay, this thing pays for itself. When I get the new one, this pays for itself like in a couple months. Okay. Sometimes a couple weeks, depending on what time of the year it is and whatever. But I'm just saying it's not a bad thing, okay? But you need to understand it. You need to regulate it. You need to use it properly. Okay? Thank you guys. Hey Loretta, thank you. Thank you, Loretta. Everything is the way you use it. Nothing is inherently evil. Okay? So a kitchen knife can be used to cut your meat, or it can be used to hurt somebody. Okay? So nothing is inherently evil. Human beings make it so. Okay, depending on how you use it. What else? Well, disconnection from emotion. Oh, there we go. Trauma. Okay? So if you've been through a lot of emotional strain, okay, and you've been drained emotionally, you're not going to have a very good imagination. If you've been through a really, really bad marriage, okay, or a really, really bad relationship, let's say there was abuse involved, there was, bad stuff involved, trauma involved, all of that, then yeah, your creativity and imagination is going to be way down. Okay. And in my job, I had to use creativity every morning on the radio when I was on the radio. When I was on stage doing stage shows on the weekends, I had to use creativity all the time. So I couldn't allow the drama. I had to shut it out. I had to push it away from me. If a girl gave me drama, I kicked her out. She was gone. That's it. Okay? Because I couldn't sacrifice what was making me money. Priorities. Okay? So if someone is giving you drama, yesterday we talked about detaching. We talked a little bit about that, right? The people that no longer serve you, I don't care if it's blood relatives or not. Okay? Detach. You don't have to kick them out. You don't have to have an episode where you disconnect from them in such a bad way or anything like that. Just don't deal with them. Stay away from them. Okay? Because when you engage, you join energetically. I'm talking about in here. You're not your body. You're not your name. You're that energy that lives in here. You're that spirit that lives in here. You're a spiritual being. I don't care what your modern science tells you. They have a lot of explanations, right? They say energy. But guess what? You cannot extinguish energy. You are eternal in here. Your energy is eternal. Your body is going to go. My body will get old. That will happen. And then my energy, my spirit will go. Okay? So disconnection from emotion. When people get shut down from emotion from too much drama, okay? They disconnect. People disconnect. That's where you get the disconnection of love from. We are born with love energy. We are born in God's energy. God lives in here. God is not out there. God is not up there. There is no out there. There's just nature and things from someone else's in here. Okay? But when you go through too much stress, too much struggle, too much, okay? Too much drama, what happens is you shut down emotionally. Okay? When you've cried too many tears, when it's just too much strain, you shut down. A lot of my clients get renewed from my vocalization exercises. Okay? That's one of the cures. But first, we're going to talk about, the things that cause it. Okay? Disconnection from emotion. Now, living in left brain logic. Okay, you know the people that are super logical. I have a client like that, and I'm making good progress with him because I'm getting him to shift back and forth from left to right brain. He was relying on left brain, left brain, left brain. When you rely on left brain, left brain, left brain, you're relying on logic. Okay? Creativity has nothing to do with logic, very little. Sometimes you have creativity that's logic, and a lot of times you don't. Okay, but I'm telling you, trust your crazy ideas. Steve Jobs, okay, crazy ideas. Okay, who would have thought that everything would fit in here one day? He did. Creative idea. Okay, trust your creative ideas. Trust your crazy ideas. Even if they're super crazy, okay? Women get shut down all the time. Why? Because they get emotional. Their emotions lead to creativity. Their creativity leads them into the right side of the brain. And then they say all this stuff, and their husbands, who are probably more logic, okay, or tend to operate on the left brain more, start thinking they're crazy. I have so many women. The majority of my clients are women, always have been, always will be. Because they seek confidence. Confidence is a clearing. Confidence is clarity. Confidence is taking away of the negative emotions, okay? Of the worry, doubt, fear, shame, guilt, all that stuff. Then what are you left with? You're left with this energy. You're left with the way you were born. You ever seen an angry baby? I say that every day. Because people don't think about that, right? You ever see an angry baby? We're not born like that. Your birthright is abundance. Everything about a baby is abundant. Everybody hands everything to the baby. Okay? Now you can go into the left brain and make excuses for that. Oh, the baby can't get his own, so we have to give everything to the baby. What about when the baby gets old enough? Then the baby experiences life. Then he gets angry for the first time, right? Like down the road, okay? But this is life. We're here to learn. We're here to experience. Okay? We're here to overcome. So when you live only in left brain logic, right? Only in logic, logical stuff, whatever, okay? Then you tend to ignore the right side. But Jesus sits at the right hand of the Father, okay? In the Bible, esoterically, that's what it's talking about. Move over to the promised land. Moses, okay, the story of Moses, from the left brain to the right brain, the migration. Get out of the thoughts over here that are only in logic and move over to the promised land, to the right side, the right hemisphere of the brain. That's where you meet God. Why? What happens in the right hemisphere of the brain? Creativity, intuition. Intuition is your divine guidance. That's the voice of God. If you listen to your intuition more and your ego less, right? The ego is in the left hemisphere. The ego always thinks it knows best. The ego is what gets you in trouble. But when you surrender the ego, you don't have to kill the ego. You're not supposed to kill the ego. Okay? Having a healthy ego, you hear people say that. Do you know what it means? Having a healthy ego? That means being able to subdue the ego, being able to push the ego down and move forward into the right hemisphere of the brain. Because the ego will get you in trouble. You see this all the time, right? Especially with successful people. Success, 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 success. The ego takes over, fall down. So your imagination is still there when you dream at night. That's imagination. It's still there. But if you're emotionally detached, okay, trauma, all of that, drama, stress, overworking, overthinking, those things, then what happens is you begin to detach. What brings it back? Well, affirmations, meditation, vocalization, visualization. Your vocalization, the vocalization exercise that we do will bring it back. Good morning, Manuel. It will bring it back. How long does it take? Well, the majority of my students 3 to 4 months, and it'll be sharp. It won't just bring it back, it'll be sharp. But these things need to be guided back. Why? Because they're tied to emotions. And if your emotions have been shut down, they need to wake up. How do you wake them up? Affirmations, meditation, vocalization, visualization. Okay? But the vocalization is very important to be done first. Okay? Then meditation. Why meditation? Because you need to listen to your intuition. You need to listen to God. Everybody prays to God, right? Pray, especially when they're in trouble, right? Please, God, help me, please. I need this. I do something. This is going wrong. Please pray for my grandma. Whatever, okay? That's speaking to God. You also need to listen to your divine guidance, to God. Whether you call it God, superconscious, Jesus Christ, Allah, whatever you call it. In every human being, it works the same way. Intuition works the same way. When you do this, your life gets better. Your life gets easier. Is my life easy? Pretty much, I want to say. Do I have challenges? Oh, yeah. I have challenges. Do I fail? Yes. Failure is a part of success. I make sure I fail at least a few times a month. Sometimes I fail once a week. Failure is good for you. If you're failing, that's a good thing, okay? Because you learn. If you don't learn, you're going to fail again with the same thing, so it doesn't matter anyway. Okay? You're going to keep failing at the same thing till you learn. Eventually, you'll get it. Hopefully on the first time. Hopefully the first time you learn. But that's what failure is for. Failure is like getting all of these things out of the way, failing with all of these little things here, so you can get to the big thing. Okay? Because if you don't fail over here along the way, if you don't have these failures along the way, then it's like that old saying. If you're too big for the little things, you're too little for the big things. Okay? It's necessary. It has to happen. So you can rebuild your imaginative capacity. Okay? How do you do that? Well, art, that's one thing. You can learn to draw, take classes. So this forms new neurons in your brain, neural pathways. Okay? Neurons that fire together, wire together. Neuroplasticity is what it's called because your brain is plastic. Okay? Plasticity, the root word is plastic. That means it's adjustable. That means it's programmable. That means you're not stuck with one set of intelligence or one set of skills, and then all of a sudden you get too old and it just collapses. That's not how the brain works. My mom was in her 80s and she learned how to paint, and everybody went, whoa. I was like that too, because I never saw her paint when I was a kid. So, I was like, whoa, I didn't know you painted, Mom. She was like, I think she was like 82 or 83. And she goes, I didn't paint it. I didn't know I painted either. I just took a class. So she went to the class and she learned. See? And that's how it works. You learn. So you can learn at any age. If you believe that you can't teach an old dog new tricks, that's not true. Okay? That's another thing that was done to you to go like this. And it's old school, so it was handed down. Okay, so don't believe that. Okay, here. Old dog, new tricks. Okay. Not old dog cannot. Okay? It's not like that. All right. So, uh, anyway, so neuroplasticity is an important thing to understand because you have to know so that you can remedy these things, these problems, these issues that you have. Okay? Let's say for example, you need your creativity back. Okay? So, yeah, you can rewire your brain for creativity. You can bring it back. You can stimulate it back. Okay? First we do it through the voice. It starts to come back. Then the meditation. Okay? The meditation is the receptivity of it. Okay? Because you receive. In prayer, you're talking to God. In meditation, you're listening to God. I'm not talking about chanting in some kind of Indian language you don't understand. I'm talking about being still. Close your distractors like this. Sit still in your happy place for 15 minutes a day. If you do 10, that's good enough. 10 to 15 minutes, that's all you need. But you need to tune in to your divine guidance. So many people have shut off their divine guidance. It's not on. They don't do it on purpose. How does it happen? Oh, well, the TV, that's one. Scrolling, that's another thing. Internet, yeah, all of that. It's the physical world. We keep talking about the separation between man-made and God-made. This is God-made. Everything else out here, okay, besides the inventions and whatever, okay, it's just nature. And then everything else is man-made. Everything in your world is man-made. The parking meter, the sidewalk, everything. So what becomes your reality? All those things. And if you put your faith and trust in those things, even if it's a system, the financial system, maybe you're an investor and maybe you do day trading, maybe you do that stuff. Then what? Oh, then I believe in this. I trust this brings me money. I trust in this. Okay, now this becomes mammon. And you cannot believe in God and mammon. God made, man made. This is why Jesus said, seek the kingdom first, right? Because you go in here. God lives in here. Seek the kingdom first, and all this man-made stuff will be added unto you. Why? Because this has the power first. First and foremost, this is not about being a good person. I know jackasses that have a lot of money. Okay? They're bad people. They do bad stuff. They have a lot of money. Okay? But they know how to get it. I'm trying to teach you how to get it. Okay? It doesn't matter if it's a relationship, doesn't matter if it's money, doesn't matter if it's a career, doesn't matter what it is. The law of attraction is real. It starts with the law of vibration first. Then it goes law of attraction. Okay, we always go over the universal laws. Maybe we'll do that tomorrow, universal laws. Because until you find out about the universal laws, you're just like, well, okay, I have this faith. And I put my faith up there in the sky, in God, because God's watching me, everything that I do. No, your subconscious is watching everything you do. God is watching your subconscious. Okay, when they say God knows your heart in the Bible, what they're talking about is God knows your subconscious. Why? Because your subconscious is a record of who you are. And everything you believe is in your subconscious. That's what's repeating your program every day. That's why you live the same life every day. That's why you don't have to learn how to brush your teeth every day. You don't have to learn how to drive the car every day. 95% of your life is subconscious. Whatever you believe in your subconscious is going to materialize in your physical world, including your friends. This is why they say, well, show me your 5 closest friends and I'll tell you who you are. I'll tell you what you believe in. I'll show you how you roll. Okay? It's very easy. The universal law of correspondence says whatever is in here is going to be reflected right out here. So when you walk through the office and you see somebody with their desk and everything is organized and everything is neat, that's how they are in here. When your friend picks you up and they got clothes scattered all over the car and it's all messy and whatever, that's how they are in here. You cannot hide from someone. You cannot hide who you are. And when you manifest who you are, not always what you want. Okay? And that's because in your subconscious, it's about what you believe. That's what you manifest. Okay? Because once you believe something, let's say it another way. Once you do enough repetition on something and it goes into your subconscious as a belief, then and only then can God go, okay, here you go. And the subconscious starts looking for the avenues, and the superconscious or God starts going, okay, we're going to bring this guy in the picture. We're going to bring this person, bring this one, open the doors, boom, 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 as you take the steps. I proved this to my client. He said he didn't believe in God. I'm like, okay, I respect that. I'm not here to tell you what to believe. If you don't believe in God, there's just a conscious and subconscious. That's it. No superconscious for you. Okay? But if you believe in God, God is the superconscious. In other words, God is the higher power, the higher self, infinite intelligence. Everything in the universe is intelligent. And this is why it's virtually impossible for a pastor to stand in front of a congregation and profess to know the will of all creation. That's preposterous. Okay? Because all of creation is unexplainable. No scientist has the answer. They're getting close to some solid evidence. But what they're uncovering is infinite. They're up to the 10th dimension in quantum physics. 10 dimensions and counting. Every time they think they're at the limit, they discover another one. It's called a multiverse. Universe is one. But we live in a multiverse. Okay? There's infinite possibilities, and we choose one. So in your subconscious, when you believe a certain way, that way begins to appear. And that becomes your reality. And that becomes your experience. Thoughts become things. It originates in thought. You get the idea in your conscious mind. The conscious mind forms the target. It goes in your subconscious. Okay, when you believe it, it goes in your subconscious. Now the subconscious goes, okay, how can we get him there? How can we get her there? You want to buy a car? Oh, maybe you could take out a loan. Maybe you could save money. Maybe you need a side hustle. Maybe you need to do this. Maybe you need to do that. And these are all ideas that you get. And you will be led down one of those paths. And you eventually choose the path. You say, okay, maybe I'll go test drive. Okay, go test drive. And now you test drive the car. And then they bring up possibilities, okay? Infinite possibilities. But they bring up a couple. And maybe one of them is financing. Your credit's good, you finance the car, there you go, new car. It just depends on how you believe. Now, if you believe in financing, you'll do it. If you don't believe in financing, maybe it's a side hustle. Maybe you got to go work for cash money. Some people work for cash money. I'm not encouraging it, I'm just saying it happens, okay? But adults can rebuild imaginative capacity. Okay, the first thing that happens is we do the vocal exercise. It clears everything out. Once you get rid of the negative emotions, it starts coming back. Okay, art is another thing. Playing a musical instrument, learning the piano, learning the guitar, learning processes. Okay, practicing math. That's another one. Okay, learning mathematics. It forms new neural pathways. This rewires your brain through neural plasticity. Okay, so vocalization reopens your emotional, imaginative mind. How does it do that? Well, first of all, it pulls you in the present moment when you express through your voice. Do I have any regrets in life? Anything no, not at all. Not at all. I slept on a sidewalk for a while, for months when I was like 20, 21. But I had a good time. I wasn't mad at God. I wasn't mad at anybody. I was having a good adventure. I thought it was fun. Would I do it all over again? Sure. No problem. No problem at all. But thank you for asking. So, art, any process that you need to learn, okay? So learn it. You're never too old. When you get old, it's really important. My mom is 90 years old. She's still practicing her painting. She's still learning her painting. She's 90 and she's still forming new neural pathways. She's still learning how to do, do the iPhone, do the computers. I saw this lady, she was at least 94 years old, sitting next to me one day at the Apple store. And we were all watching a presentation and she was taking notes. And I thought, she's 90, like in her mid 90s. This lady was old. And I thought, I'm going to look over and see if she's really taking notes or if she's just scribbling or whatever she's doing. And I kind of looked over and she was taking solid notes. This lady was smart and she was alert and she was cognitive. Okay? So don't dismiss these things. Learn new things as you get older. Don't resign to an imaginative age cap. Okay, where you say, well, I'm 75, I can't learn anymore. Don't do that. That's not true, okay? It's not true. Okay, so if you don't feel creative, you're not broken. If you don't feel like you can imagine, okay, or if you're not using your imagination, okay, you can learn, you can re-stimulate it, you can regrow it, you can reactivate it. Okay, if you don't use your creativity, if you don't use your imagination, okay, the brain just kind of quiets that part of you down. Okay, you have to wake it up. It's just like your subconscious. If you're not using your subconscious, guess what happens? It starts to slow down. Let me show you what wake up looks like. Okay, this is my used tablet. I show this almost every day because I want people to know what the process is. Okay, here. Okay, these are affirmations. This is not journaling. If you're doing journaling, you need to be careful, okay? Because if you're journaling about drama or bad things that happen and you're writing about an issue at work that happened, don't do that. It goes into your subconscious. Okay, then you get negativity in your subconscious. Then it wash, rinse, repeat like that, okay? So be careful. Be careful what you write. Now, if you're typing in your phone affirmations like this, it's not gonna work. You need to write, okay? So write something like, I am so happy and grateful now that I'm confident, thank you. There you go. I'm doing this every morning for an hour so that I affect more people. Okay, if you plug my name into AI or into a browser and you put teaching method, it'll give you all the information. Okay, if you wanna work with me, you can work with me. I'd be happy to work with you. This is my left here, and this is my right over here, just for reference. They're asking me what my left and right is. Okay, but anyway, so yeah, you can search my name and put it in AI or browser or whatever you have. So when you have a limitation on creativity, you're just out of practice. Okay, emotionally guarded, mentally conditioned. Okay, society conditions you every day. Okay, the calendar, the clock, the deadlines, the obligations. Okay, the TV, the commercials. Okay, this is all brainwashing, right? But everything is brainwashing to a human being because you're so intelligent. Okay, you absorb everything and pretty soon you conform to something. You conform to patterns. How do you break the patterns? We break the patterns with people with their vocalization exercise. Sarah's a witness to that. Sarah's one of my clients over here, and the blinders came off, and now she can see. And when she tries to explain it to people, like they think she's crazy. They can't because they can't see it. Why? Because they're conditioned into the system. Human blinders are like this. Horse blinders are like this, right? So they can't look off to the side and get spooked. But human blinders are like this. Okay. And this is why it says in the Bible, and ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free, because when you can see, you see the truth. But guess what? When you see the truth, it doesn't last very long. Okay? Because the veil comes back down. The blinders come back in like this. They go like this. You see the truth for a little while. Sometimes it lasts 5 minutes, sometimes 10 minutes. And then slowly it goes like this. Why does that happen? It's because you have a calendar. It's because you have a clock. You have deadlines. You have a job. You have to take care of the kids. You have to pick them up from school. Whatever it is. Okay? But this life that we live is subconscious. 95% is subconscious. If you're not pulled out from it, you just repeat it over and over. And then you go day to day to day to day to day to day to dead. The unresolved issues from yesterday, you start thinking about today. So now you've made it a reality today. Okay, tomorrow you wake up. Okay, did you resolve any? If you didn't, guess what? Now they're in tomorrow. And it keeps going like that. Dr. Joe Dispenza describes it that way. I thought it was a good description, so I always give him credit, and I always explain it that way as well. So creativity returns when judgment decreases, when you stop judging others. This is why it says in the Bible, judge not and ye shall not be judged. Because when you judge, you automatically get judged. Okay, this is why you have low self-esteem. This is why you don't have self-confidence. This is why you start feeling bad about things. Because you've projected it out that way. And it hits you in the subconscious. Why does it hit you in the subconscious? Because it records everything. It records everything you do, everything you think. You don't even have to speak it out loud. You can just think it. Oh, look at her shoes. Right? Whatever. Okay? In your subconscious. And your subconscious records it. And then guess what? Now you're judging you. Okay? Now you start judging you in your negative self-talk. And that starts making you feel bad. And that lowers your self-confidence and self-esteem. And now you have anxiety. And now you have negative self-talk. And now you have, right, worry. You start worrying about stuff. Right? Criticism. Right? Despair. Envy. All of those things happen when you envy somebody. When you're jealous of somebody. What happens? You have an empty space. Why? Because you're envying that. You're envying that grill or that car or that house, right? And now you've created this empty space for you. Why is this empty? Oh, because you want that house, you want that car, you want what he has, you want what she has. And this is why when you're grateful, right, for what you have, and that's why they say be grateful for what you have. Now that you're grateful for what you have, guess what happens? You're full. Okay? And blessings come. Why do blessings come? Because you're expressing gratitude for what you have. You're grateful for what you have, and that turns into more. Seek first the kingdom, and all else will be added unto you. But you got to go in here first. Okay? It's not out there. Don't go seek out there. I know people go out there, they seek properties, they try to buy property, do this, do that. But pretty soon something bad happens, they lose it. Get divorced, they lose half. Okay, whatever, I'm just saying. Okay, a plethora of things could happen. But when you seek the kingdom first and then things are added unto you, you have to give them away or sell it or make the decision to get rid of it. God will not give you something you cannot handle. God will not overload you with stuff. Okay, there is always balance in the universe. But you balance it yourself through your subconscious, through your actions. Thank you, you guys. So anyway, Jay is over there going, hey, you got to tell these guys about the special. So we got to go. I have to go, and I have clients today as well. But yeah. So think about those things, and let's discuss a little bit more tomorrow, okay? Tomorrow, 7 o'clock Hawaii time.